Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock. This is City of Heroes with Liberty Lass, our level 49 brute. We are 2.33 million XP from getting to the next level. As you can see, we now have a lot more influence. Well, it turns out that I had a couple of orange things that I didn't want. There was something called, I can't remember, it was Fury of something that was a melee set that was for PvP stuff, and I won't touch PvP. I'm not going to buy the PvP stuff because it's always more expensive. So I sold that for like 10 million or something, a lot. At one point, I had almost 50 million, and I spent 13 million influence, gaining two new sets. Most of it was on this set, the Unbreakable Guard set, which gives us 2.5% reduced endurance cost, increases our negative and energy resistance by 2.25%, our melee defense and lethal and smashing defense a little bit, toxic and sonic resistance, fire and cold resistance have gone up. And it gives us the same buffs and a little bit better endurance buff and same buffs to resistance as we had in here we had a single endurance and 3 regular resistance. I also grabbed multi-strike for our AOE. That was an easily purchasable um, one. And then there is another one that I'm looking at, Obliteration. And I think what happened with that one is most of the others were affordable, but one of the ones in the set was like obscenely expensive. It's like all the other ones were like half a million to a million, and this one, and whichever one it was, there were only a few for sale and tons of people bidding, and it was super super expensive. And if you look on the merit vendor, you can get these for merits, and they cost 50. So all I need to do is get 4 more merits, and I'll be able to buy the super expensive one. And if I can get that one, then I'll get the other cheaper ones, and we'll probably use that one for Power Crash. So I would still like to get some melee damage to Energy Punch and Energy Transfer. But we basically got our sets mostly done. I mean, I wanted to get another. Did I want to get another one in here? No. Um, why did I put that slot in here? Was I actually going to put the 2-hit debuff? Oh, we were going to put healing in here. Yeah, so I would like to, at level 50, we're going to put another slot in here. And the theoretical thing is we would put healing, but I don't actually expect to ever slot that out because we're not going to really play Liberty Last much at 50. The other thing is I wanted to see if I have reduced endurance cost in here. I did not actually check for that one. One of the nice things about not having done this, um, not having done this much before, is I had all of the orange and yellow stuff I needed to create all of those enhancements. So it's pretty good. All right, so endurance reduction. We want a level 50 endurance reducer because we want to put that into maneuvers. Everything else is okay. And the last thing I want to do is I had grabbed these two titanium coating because I was going to get those as a resistance set, right? I knew that the which one is it? What do we have here? The Unbreakable Guard was expensive. I think it cost me a total of about 10 million to buy all of them. Many of them were between 1 and 2 million. But the titanium coating ones were 500 to a million. 500,000 to a million. I'm like, if we're going to be spending sort of like 4 million or something on the cheaper set, I may as well spend the 10 million and get the better set, right? It's not like I was like multi-strike. I had one of them. A couple of them were expensive, like 500,000, but some of them were like, but most of them are like 30 or 50,000, right? So multi-strike cost maybe a million to create versus which one is it? Obliteration was going to cost me like 10 million. So then it's worth it. But if it's going to cost like 5 million just to get the crappier one, I may as well get the more expensive one, right? Obliteration, not Obliteration, Unbreakable was clearly a better set. So anyway, we now have a couple more sets. I wanted to do that because the character is coming into our last few sessions, so We should enjoy the sets a little bit. And we're going to continue with Operation Worldwide Red. I hope you guys are enjoying. Today is as I record this, is the 27th. The first thing I did was I went on Steam to look for their sale. Sale doesn't start until 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern time, and it's only like 8 a.m. Or, well, it was when I was checking. It was before 8 a.m. So it was like, there's a countdown clock you can find on, it's not on Steam itself, but SteamDB or something, where they had like the database of Steam stuff, and the countdown clock when I was looking at it said 5 hours and 17 minutes, and that was about 45 minutes ago. So I won't be able to check the Steam store for a while because I need to go into work this afternoon. I'm really annoyed that I got to go in this afternoon, but um, it's my own doing. I don't have to go in. And what I did was I baked some cookies. My mom had this old recipe that she got out of a Spry cookbook. Google what Spry was if you've never heard of it before. A lot of people haven't. I mentioned it to my sister. I mentioned it to my postdoc who does a lot of cooking, and she said, I've never heard of it. And when I told her what it was, she was like, oh. And I mentioned it to my sister, and she's like, yeah, I remember my mom calling it that. So a little mystery for you. Go look up what Spry was. Anyway, it came out of a Spry cookbook, and I had all the stuff for it a while ago, and I made these things. They're called brown rem cookies. They're really easy to make. And so I made them, and they came out okay. They came out pretty good. And I made a half a recipe because I wasn't sure if they were going to come out okay. And I tried them, and then I was going to make them for my sister, and then I was having some issues with my eye and everything, so I didn't do that. And when I was visiting my sister, my brother-in-law's had A1C issues and sugar issues for like carb issues, and so he's gone into a reduced carb diet, and he was talking about how many carbs we eat, that it's too many. And like I said in one of my episodes, I've been watching Kids Baking Championship, getting really interested in baking because I love cake and cookies and stuff like that. And so I thought, I really shouldn't make an entire batch of like 48 cookies and just eat them all because that's no good for you, right? So I said, well, I still want to make stuff, and the solution is to bake things that you then share with other people, right? If other people eat some of the cookies, then I don't have to worry about it, right? And I'm not going to, eat too much sugar. So I decided to make a full recipe, but give like half of them away. And so I baked up these brown rem cookies on Tuesday, and I was really annoyed because the thing is, like, my oven doesn't want to keep a constant temperature. It's really frustrating. The temperature, I have a thermometer in the oven to double check it because the temperature that it says on the oven is, the digital temperature is usually not correct. Right, so you preheat it to 375, let's say, which is what these cookies need. If I put it on 375 and hit the preheat button, right, it'll beep and telling me preheat's ready to go and that it's 375. And if you look at the oven temperature, it's like on 200. It's not ready yet. So I don't know where the thermometer. It's clear that the thermometer for the oven is in. The thermostat for the oven is in a spot that heats faster than the rest of the oven. But I have my thermometer in the middle of the oven, kind of like where the baking is going to take place, near the door, so that I can see it through the door. It's hard to see through the door anyway, but I usually have to open it. But anyway, it was, I couldn't keep the oven the temperature I wanted. I was really struggling with that, and also so I had the 2 sheets of cookies, and the one on the bottom rack was clearly done, and I pulled them out. They were like perfectly done, but the one on the top rack wasn't done yet. They have little brown rim cookies. There's a little round cookie, and the edges get sort of like tan. And there's a certain color they're supposed to be, basically. Right? If you let them go in too long, they get black on the edges, and they're burnt. But these things didn't have any rims at all, so I put them on the bottom rack, which is probably what I shouldn't have done. And then I turned and I started taking the finished ones off and putting them away, putting them on the cooling rack and doing stuff. And then I burnt the ones that were on the bottom, because I forgot. I didn't forget about them, but I didn't turn to them fast enough, and I burnt them, which is really annoying. So anyway, about half of them came out great, and half of them came out burnt. And I have about 2 dozen that that worked correctly. And so I have the dean of my college, who used to be the chair of my department. He really liked some of the stuff I used to bake when before the pandemic, and since the pandemic, I've occasionally baked stuff and brought it into him. So I said I'll bring him like 8 cookies, and I'll bring the, maybe the chair of the department 8 cookies, and I'll bring one of my other colleagues 8 cookies. So I've got the 2 dozen out of the 4 dozen cookies. About 2.5 dozen came out non-burnt. Those are the ones I'm giving away, and I'm eating the ones that they're not completely burnt. All of them. Some of them are just a little burnt. But I'm eating the bad ones. This is why my mom always used to do, right? She would say, I'll eat the bad ones. We eat the bad ones. We give the good ones to company. It used to irritate me because I wanted to eat the good ones. She didn't burn the way I did, though. This is true for everything, by the way, not just those cookies. So I'm going into work today because I wanted to give the dean and these other people some cookies. Because I don't want to keep them around the house, right? If I didn't think I could give them away, I would have made a half a batch. Because I don't want to eat all the. I mean, I do want to eat them, but I don't. But I shouldn't be eating all of those, right? I would love to eat them, but I shouldn't be, right? It's too much sugar and fat and everything. It's not good for you. It's cookies. Better off eating fruit or something like that, which is what I'm trying to discipline myself to do. So, sort of like making a New Year's resolution, but in the middle of the year. So I contacted the dean, and I'm like, are you going to be around this week? I made cookies. And he said, oh, yeah, I'll be around all week. Okay, great. Will you be around tomorrow morning? This was on Tuesday, so for Wednesday, we'd be around Wednesday morning. He said, yeah, I'll be around. I have a meeting at 9, but I'll be around before then. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to go in there at 8 o'clock in the morning and fight rush hour traffic and bring him cookies. Right? It's one thing if I have to teach class at 8 a.m. or something, but I'm not going to go fight rush hour traffic just to bring this guy cookies. That's silly. So I said, what about after that? He said, well, after that, I have a meeting with the provost. I said, well, what about after that? He said, well, after that, we're having a luncheon for all the people who are retiring this year. I'm like, oh, my gosh. But you can leave them. I'm like, no, I actually have a bit of an ulterior motive. Yes, I'm trying to give away cookies, and I'm going to give them to other people. But I haven't talked to the dean in a long time. He's a friend of mine. I want to have a conversation with him. There's some stuff going on in the college that I'm hoping we can maybe have a friendly conversation about outside the auspices of being in an official meeting and stuff, right? I'm handing him some cookies. We're chit-chatting. He tries the cookies. He enjoys them. And then I can say, hey, by the way, what's going on with the new hires? I haven't heard anything, So I don't want to leave him on his door. Then I don't get to talk. Plus, I haven't seen him in a while. I want to ask him how his kids are doing. I told him about Kids Baking Championship. That thing started in like 2015. I got to ask him, but I think his youngest daughter, who liked to bake, was the right age. She could have gone on that show if we'd known about it. And she probably would have won because she was really good and really smart. So I want to just talk with him about stuff. I don't want to just hand him cookies. So I said, what about Thursday? And he said, well, I've got this in the morning and that in the morning. But he said, I'm going over to the department around 3. And I said, okay, I'll see you there. He said, I'm going to be in the new building around 3. I said, okay, I'll be there because I'm going to be talking to this other guy and bringing him cookies too. So I wanted to go in the morning and get this over with. I didn't want to go in the afternoon. But unfortunately now I got to leave my house around 1:30, which is right as the Steam sale is going to be taking off, and go in there and try and give them their cookies and stuff. So I probably won't be able to try anything out on the Steam store until 5, 6 o'clock tonight, which is annoying because I could have done it now, or I could have gone into the department in the morning, at 10, and been home when the sale starts. Now the sale's going to go on for a while. I don't have to be there at the minute, but I've been waiting. I want to try some Planet Zoo or Planet Coaster or whatever, and they're not on sale. And so I don't want to buy them at full price. And I wanted to start a new franchise zoo. I haven't finished all the tutorials, but I don't think I'm going to keep doing the tutorials exclusively because they're really annoying me. They're not, they're extremely hard, like extremely hard, and not in a fun way. And so I thought, well, you know what I should do is intersperse it was just souring me on Planet Zoo. Like, I hate this. I was screaming in rage at the game, the last mission they did, because it's so unpleasant to do. And I haven't even got to the bronze level of it yet. I thought, okay, I'm going to end up hating this game, and I think the way I avoid doing that is if I can switch to franchise mode, which is kind of like a budgeted sandbox, and do what I want in the zoo instead of the mission being, we made a zoo that's all messed up, go correct it, which I don't find fun at all. Um, and so I said, let me at least alternate between making my own zoo that isn't messed up and trying to correct their terrible zoo. And I could do that, except the zoo idea I have in mind requires one of the expansions I don't have, the barnyard animals. And so I don't want to. It's only $10, but I don't want to pay full price if it's going to go on sale. So I'm trying to wait and see if it goes on sale. So I wanted to play Planet Zoo yesterday, and I didn't because I was frustrated with the tutorial, and I'm like, I'm not going to start a franchise zoo now when I'm going to get a new pack that's the pack I want to start the zoo with. So I'm waiting for the Steam sale, and I'm a little annoyed. But anyway, we've got our mission completed, and as you saw, I messed up a little bit with the sappers, but not too badly. And we call Crimson. And so Crimson gives me a new mission to defeat Moment and his men. Let us go to the hospital and just pick up a couple of heals and a luck. So, as I said, one of the reasons I think I said this, one of the reasons that I did my, enhancement sets now is that, we only have 4 beats left. And this character doesn't have that much longer for this world before we're going to retire her and switch to the Dominator. And I just wanted to make sure that we got some play in with our enhancement sets present. Is once we retire the character, there's really no reason for me to get enhancement sets. Somebody had asked about, well, you can do the veteran levels and the post level 50 stuff. If I did that, I would do it with Silver Phoenix because she's already like veteran level 30 or something, and she's got her incarnate powers. So one of the things I said I would do, and I might do this with Silver Phoenix, is do some sort of an interlude, maybe an epilogue to this season or what have you, and just have an episode where we do Silver Phoenix. I'm going to be super rusty at her, but you can see the incarnate powers in action. I do not have any powers that you have to run the trials for because I've never run a trial. But she has, I think, these bottom slots done. I'm not sure. She has up to lore, I think. I'm pretty sure. And I can show you what her abilities look like. This character makes more sense to have incarnate abilities than Silver Phoenix, who's just a street level martial artist. She shouldn't have, godlike abilities, but I'm not going to do veteran levels with this character because, well, for 2 reasons. First of all, it's endless, right? You can go forever, so there's no reason to ever stop, but it's just the same character over and over again, getting a tiny little bit better every time. But in addition to that, I don't like the level 50 content. And I logged into Silver Phoenix when I first came back to Homecoming and said, let me play a little bit with her. I'm like, oh, these are all missions I don't like. I like the lower level content a lot better. There's no more, you don't do any more of these indoor missions when you get to post level 50. You're fighting really annoying enemies sometimes, depending. God, those sappers. There's just nothing I can do to stop them before they auto hit me. I miss Silver Phoenix from that because they could not hit her. She had AoE defense. Yeah, but you start having fewer and fewer of these kinds of missions. The level 50 stuff in the Rigby Warzone, or whatever it's called now, I didn't really like them, and that's a lot of what is available to her at high level, or going into the zone with the Rularu, with the Shadow Shard. Don't like that at all. It's really kind of disappointing to me how little of the upper level gameplay I like compared to the lower level. Um, this story arc is okay, but a lot of the upper level content is just not. It's not my favorite. I really prefer the lower level stuff. Some of the upper level enemies are cool to fight. I don't mind Malta, although I find the sappers annoying. But but a lot of the upper level zones, the way they designed the outdoor zones, not for me. So it's not just that the character feels finished to me. It's also that the available content, the repeatable missions that you can do, I don't really like them, and I don't see the point of doing repeatable missions. Right? To me, I want to do a mission once and be done with it. I don't want the same mission over and over again. Why? That's boring. And I think I talked about this. I remember talking to the good Rob, one of my really good friends, and he was playing World of Warcraft, and he was talking about doing the dailies. Like, what do you mean the dailies? The daily raids or whatever. You can only do them once a day. I'm like, why would you want to do the same raid every day? That doesn't make any sense to me. Isn't it the same thing over and over? And he said, well, as you do it, you gain loot that makes you a little better, and then you can do it again at a harder level or something, right? Or you get a little further in it every time, and basically you're just doing the same thing over and over again to loot up, and that's kind of the feel I get from the end game content of City of Heroes, and I've never seen any value in doing that. I'm not a fan of repeating the same content over and over again. And I don't mind doing this story arc again with another character, but I can't see the point of taking this character and doing this story arc over and over again. And there go all my abilities. Yep, I'm screwed. That's the sapper. I didn't hit him with the right combo of powers. I hit him with the AoE first instead of the stunners. And that gave him time to beat me, to hit me. And all he's got to do is hit you once and your entire endurance bar drains. Yep, it's pretty sad that a minion can make me pop Strength of Will. But it's the only thing that works, because Strength of Will, once it's engaged, does not require any endurance to keep going, and at least gives you some minimal defenses. Right, some minimal resistance. It's not as good as having all the toggles on, but it'll keep you alive until you can re-engage those toggles, which is why I popped it right away. It's ridiculous that I have to use that panic power against a simple minion, but that's the way the sappers are. Yeah, one of the things I've never really loved about City of Heroes is the fact that the villain's endurance doesn't matter. I don't know why I hit taunt there. I meant to hit the build-up. I've always felt like it should, and I think it did. I think initially it did, and they took it out because the very primitive, limited AI, if you can call it that they have in City of Heroes, is just could not handle dealing with keeping track of its own endurance. So the villain abilities use almost none of their endurance to do. And I don't think the villains have actual toggles. I think the villains have click powers instead of toggles. That's why, like, Dr. Lila's Temper and Vulnerability is a click power. Yes, it's the way Temporary and Vulnerability originally was, but also because if they ran toggles that cost them endurance, they couldn't figure out how to handle it. Right? The AI just wasn't smart enough to handle it. And I think that's why the endurance doesn't matter, but I feel like as a consequence, something like Electricity, which has a secondary effect of endurance drain, they should have given it a different secondary effect. If you want to say it does that in PvP, fine, but in PvE it should have some other kind of an effect, like paralyzing or something, because villains don't need endurance. Right? The NPCs don't need endurance. So, yeah, it's one of those good for the goose is good for the gander things. Like, if I have to manage my endurance, the villain should have to manage theirs, but I think the game just couldn't figure out how to do it. The devs could not program it in a way that it was able to do that, and consequently they took it out in very early beta, I think. Somebody who was in the initial like alpha, if anybody's watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's true. But that sort of thing makes sappers doubly frustrating to me, because they're affecting me in a way I can't affect them, right? If I had the sapper ability to completely drain the villain's endurance, they would still be able to attack me, because endurance doesn't matter to them. And none of their defenses would go down. And that always feels unfair. I know it's, an AI issue, but it feels unfair. However, I also have been, because I'm talking and chatting with you guys, not as careful as I should be about sappers. Much easier when you're a stalker, right? You can basically sneak up to them, just stab them in the back, and they can't do anything to you. So those of you who are interested in tabletop role-playing games, and some of you may play Dungeons and Dragons, are you guys getting excited? The new rulebook is getting ready to come out, and I don't know if they've lost their minds or what, but on D&D Beyond, the pre-order for the books, which as I understand it does not get you a PDF because D&D doesn't do PDFs. The pre-order for the 3 books, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, is $180 for the set, which is $60 a book. But they say in the announcement that if you don't pre-order it, the retail price of these books is going to be $240. $240 for 3 rule books. That is insane to me. And my favorite response from them when somebody was complaining about it's a new edition, it's invalidating the old edition, is one of their moderators came on with her little smiley faces that she likes to do and posted that it's not a new edition. And I'm like, well, if it's not a new edition, why am I paying $240 for it? Why would people pay $240 for what you are claiming is this same exact edition? Like, if you're not going to make a new edition of it, why are you charging me so much? Of course it's a new edition. It's completely a new edition. But I don't post to their forums anymore, but I really would love someone to ask that question. If it's not a new edition, why is it so expensive? Why isn't it just $20 a book? Right? If it's not a new edition, right? If they do this with textbooks all the time, right? They call it a new edition. They make a couple of minor changes. Oh, there's the boss. They make a couple of minor changes, and then they call it a new edition so they can charge the students more money. But it's not really a new edition, right? It's just they just change it just enough that they can justify calling it a new edition so that they can charge more money, right? That's all it's about. And what D&D, on the other hand, is actually making a new edition, right? And they're saying it's not, but they're trying to charge us as much money as if it is a new edition, because it is a new edition, right? And I would love to have quoted her. We say it's not a new edition, smiley face. I would love to quote that back to her, but I don't post there anymore, and say, if it's not a new edition, why is it so expensive? $80 for a book that's not even another edition. It's the same edition. Why am I paying that? That's ridiculous. I'm not paying it, right? I'm not giving them a dime. But anybody who is paying it, yikes. $240. And all that is the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook. It's nothing else. It doesn't include any, of the, modules or anything like that. It doesn't include your D&D Beyond subscription that you're going to need to have to just read the text online instead of in your paper book, right? And you don't even get a PDF with it, as I understand it. So what they're gonna, I'm sure what they're gonna say is, well, we're charging for one D&D and all this really cool stuff you get with it. And yeah, if I don't play one D&D, I'm still paying $80 a book. I don't know. It seems pretty insane that they're charging that much. But that's me. Okay. We have been playing for half an hour. I guess we can do one more mission. Of course, what almost always happens is I say we'll do one more mission, and then the next mission is really, really long. We're going to search the Malta base for clues, but I need to pause for a moment. I'll bring you back in just a sec. All right, folks, we're back. Yeah, I was thinking about how much you could buy from Pinnacle Games for $240. Now, I will say this, so the entire box set of Holler is $119, half the price. And you get a book, you get standees, which are like little cardboard tokens. You get maps, you get adventures, you get character sheets, you get character cards, you get an action deck, you get bennies and dice, you get maps, you get villain cards. You get a whole bunch of stuff, and you get free PDFs with all of it. Most of the Pinnacle books are like $10 for a PDF. And so you could get, for $240, you could get almost every Savage Worlds Adventure Edition item on their store for 10 or 15 bucks each, right? I mean, it's just insane how much you could get from them if you were willing to stick with electronic. And if you wanted to buy the physical books, you could still get an awful lot from them for $240, right? The basic rules and the companions are only like 25 bucks each or something. So you could get, once it's out, the Sci-Fi Companion, the Horror Companion, Fantasy Companion, and Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, and you wouldn't be anywhere near $240. And you wouldn't just have the base of the game, you'd have everything, right? Not just fantasy, but all the sci-fi stuff, all the horror stuff, the base stuff. You could probably for $240 also buy Deadlands. You could buy ETU. You could buy Holler. The amount of stuff you could get for that amount of money, and they give you these maps and they give you adventures, GM screen inside the box set. How much is Wizards of the Coast going to charge for the new GM screen, right? In addition to the $240 you're going to spend on their books. I don't know. It just seems so expensive to me. I'm glad I'm out. I am well shut of it. And I don't know what my best friend's going to do when he GMs. I don't know what he's going to do because I'm not buying any of that stuff. So, and they have, how did they say this? I mean, we know for a fact that, I'll come back to this if I hate that room. I'll come back to that room if I need to. We know for a fact that that some of this stuff is not compatible, right? So I don't know where the compatibility lies. I think that somebody said if you want to play, you can play the 5th. I think one of their devs said you can play the 5th edition adventures with the 6th edition, we'll call it, rules. but he said we don't recommend playing. How do you say it? They didn't recommend playing 5th and 6th edition player characters together, right? You're going to need to kind of pick one. I think that's how he worded it. And yeah, that's self-evidently obvious, right? Because the 5th edition and 6th edition character creation rules are entirely different. For example, I think feats are no longer optional in 6th edition because everybody gets them in their background. You get feats in your background. You get special abilities from your background, not from your race. So I can't make up a 5th edition elf and be compatible with a 6th edition elf because they're just fundamentally different in design. I mean, I guess if you don't care, maybe you could play it that way and it doesn't matter, but I think a lot of players probably would care if their character is like weaker than another character because they're using a different set of rules. So um, I don't think I'll be able to make up a 5th edition player's handbook compatible character and have that character play reasonably well with 6th edition. The spells are all going to be different and rewritten, and my best friend is going to want to use the new descriptions of the spells because they've been rebalanced, and he'll assume, whether it's true or not, that they're better, right? Because the new is always better as far as he's concerned, right? Change is always good. He and I have argued about that over the years, right? That change for its own sake is automatically good in his opinion, and I've always said, depends what you're changing into. If you're changing into something bad, then change isn't good. And so he's going to want to do the new stuff just because it's the new stuff. He's often very uncritical about the new stuff for a while until he sees that it's broken. This has been true going back for years. And so I can't, like, if they've changed the description of, say, how Counterspell works, and he thinks it's better, well, he'll think it's better by definition because it's new. He's not going to let me use the old version of Counterspell when he's the GM. He's going to say, got to use the new one. Well, I don't have the book with that spell description in it. So unless he somehow unlocks that for me so that I can use it, if that's possible, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Well, first of all, I'll probably make sure I don't play a spellcaster, so that I have to worry about spell descriptions, right? And then the special abilities in my character class should be okay because they'll probably be nerfed relative to the buffing that's going to take place in 6E. So it shouldn't be a problem if I'm playing a weaker character, unless he feels bad because my character's been weakened, is weaker. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this works out. I have my doubts as to whether he's ever going to run anything because he really hasn't said anything about it since he said, "Oh, I'll be able to run at some point soon." Now, I haven't mentioned it to him, and he hasn't said anything. And when we finished Blood Drive, he didn't say, "Well, I'm ready now." So we went back to the old group and did Horror at Headstone Hill, and he knows it's a long campaign and that we're still in the beginning of Act 1. And he hasn't said, well, my adventure is going to be ready before we're finished or anything like that. And he's going to want to finish it now. Because one of his pet peeves is that a lot of role-playing game groups never finish things. And our group pseudo-finished the Blood Drive, but not really. We did finish Coffin Rock. We did finish the Rome game, although I did rush the ending a little bit because I was tired of it and getting burnt out on it. So he's probably going to want to finish this, but on the other hand, if we finish Headstone Hill, it's going to be at least the end of 2024 and possibly well into 2025 before he's ready, before we have time for him to start. Is he going to be ready by then? I don't know. He hasn't said anything. I feel like if he was getting ready, he'd be saying stuff, All right, I'm not going to accept this mission because it might be timed. We're just going to leave it. We've now completed a big chunk of the Worldwide Red story arc. And our character is coming along. We have, let's see here, 1.25 million XP to go. 1 or 2 more episodes, guys, and then we will be done with this character. And I'm not sad. I mean, I'm going to miss her. And I love Liberty Lass, and I like playing Brutes, and this has been a cool power set. But I'm really, really excited to play a Dominator and to play a non-melee character finally for once with you guys. Because other than doing a little bit in Iron Man, I have not done that. Other than, well, I guess Nightmare Last. It's been a while, right? It was when I bought this computer that I was during the pandemic that I was playing Nightmare Last, I believe, and that's 4 years ago. Because I bought my new computer in 2020, um, and because I was checking on this, I wanted to see if I had played Planet Zoo on my new PC or the old one, and it was the new one. Um, just to see if I might get better performance out of this PC, but it's the same one. Not that I really have had performance issues so far with Planet Zoo because my zoos have not gotten that big yet. But yeah, it was October or something of 2020 when I bought this PC, so it's about to hit 4 years old. My plan was to keep it for 5 years, so sometime next year I'm going to be looking for a new computer, probably a gaming laptop, because these computers are just so big, the gaming PCs. And other than something like Planet Zoo, I don't really need a lot of power for most of the games I've been playing. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's been 3 or 4 years since I played a non-melee character when I recorded or at all in City of Heroes. So I'm looking forward to it a lot, which is why, although I'm a little sad to stop playing Liberty Last, I feel like I've played her enough, and I'm ready to move on. So guys, if you haven't yet, drop some comments as to what Dominator you might like to see me play. And sometime in the next couple of weeks, you're going to be seeing me starting up a brand new Dominator. We're going to be on Gold side to start with so that we do some stuff that's a little different. And then we'll move into the hero side after level 20. And with that, I will sign off. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes.